Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder, and today we're doing an unboxing video, and it's been a bit, so I'm experimenting and trying some different things. I might place my camera in different positions. I just found out that there's an adapter that lets me hook up my Blue Yeti to my phone, so that's awesome. I did like filming over in my Shantae corner, but just with some of the layouts changes that I've made over there, it doesn't look as great. I have a big box with from The Last of Us Part 2 sitting on my ledge that used to be kind of empty or had some Shantae stuff. So sitting in that position is like Ellie's face is like right, like taking up a big chunk of the corner of the screen. So anyways, let's get on with it. Much as the title states, this is an unboxing for the Dead Space Collector's Edition. Now, this is was distributed by Limited Run Games, which is kind of different for AAA games. They didn't handle the manufacturing. I think they're just handling the distribution, so it took a little bit longer to get that than normal, but surprisingly, only 3 months compared to a year and a half for like everything else they do. But I guess that's the big difference between something that's incredibly high in demand and being backed by EA compared to, you know, little indie releases that are handled by Limited Run for the most part. One thing I will state though is that because of the delay of the collector's edition, and with this being such a big game, for people who got the collector's edition through Limited Run, which is the only distribution they did, otherwise you'd just buy the standard game on, you know, whatever retail you prefer. But for those who ordered the collector's edition on launch day, they either provided you the digital code if you got the PC version, or they sent you the game if you got the console versions right away. So that was great. So there's no downtime, no missed opportunity to play the game at launch. And I got Dead Space on the PC because that's how I played the original Dead Space series. So with that said, I truly hope everybody is familiar with Dead Space. I know everybody hasn't played it, but hopefully you at least know about it. And this is the remake of the original Dead Space that was released in 2008. This is like pretty much like a one-for-one remake. They kept all the guts there, all the basic story beats. You know, a lot of this, everything's the same, but they expanded and improved on everything. Graphics look way better. Controls just a little bit better. There's full voice acting. Isaac Clarke now has a voice actor, which he was a silent protagonist in the original game. And if you know anything about me, I absolutely love the Dead Space series. I've played through multiple times. Unfortunately, everybody knows about 3. I'll be honest, it's not a terrible game, but it's not a great Dead Space game, that's for sure. I was incredibly excited for this game. Like I said, I love Dead Space. So this was actually my 4th time playing through the initial entry into the series, and they absolutely nailed it. This is now the definitive version of Dead Space to play. This is better in every single way. And one little last mention before we actually get to the unboxing itself is for anybody who hasn't enjoyed Dead Space, or even if you have and you haven't got to enjoy the full like multimedia universe of Dead Space, I highly recommend looking up a few things. So there's actually kind of like a timeline of events and where different pieces of media take place that are easily accessible for the most part. So the very first entry into the Dead Space series is the Dead Space motion comic, which you can probably just find on YouTube now. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a motion comic, if you're not familiar with motion comics. Essentially, they have some technology where they take the drawn pictures and add like little movement to them to make it more than just looking at still images. And it's actually a really neat introduction to the story. And then immediately following that, and takes place before Dead Space, is Dead Space Downfall, which is an animated film. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I love it myself. Animation could be a little bit better. Hey, let's get a remake, Dead Space Downfall. But it's really cool and sets up things on the Ishimura right before you arrive in Dead Space, and then of course Dead Space. And then you can follow up Dead Space with Dead Space Aftermath, which is a series that takes place between Dead Space and Dead Space 2. So enough about that. Let's go ahead and start checking out the Dead Space Collector's Edition. So as we already have seen, this box is quite sizable. Has some pretty cool art there. I like the designs they went with this. Nothing too crazy with the box. You know, at least it's a little bit more than just a plain box that says Dead Space, right? So let's go ahead and open this up and we'll see what we get. All right, so first thing here is our Dead Space Steelbook. So, which kind of funny is that I got the PC version of this, so it does not come with a physical disc. But then again, anybody who got the collector's edition did not get a physical disc with the Steelbook. Either you got the physical console game sent to you, or you got a digital code, like I said. And the Steelbook is like a bonus. And then, as always, we got a little bit of extra art on inside the Steelbook there. And it's actually a pretty cool Steelbook. I've always enjoyed most of the imagery for the Dead Space series. And then next up in the Dead Space Collector's Edition is this Dead Space lithograph, which is pretty nice. It comes in this hardbound little folder, I guess, if you want to call it that. Chrome lettering there. And then inside, we got more Dead Space, and then kind of our original key art for Dead Space. This image is pretty iconic, I would say. Yeah. That's pretty cool. You know, I always love my art books and whatnot, but funny enough, I actually had pre-ordered the original Dead Space. It was actually one of the first games I got when I decided I was actually going to start collecting games due to some DRM issues with some other digital games I had gotten just about that time. So it's actually Dead Space was one of the first games that I pre-ordered when I decided to start collecting games. And with that, I actually got an art book, which is over on the shelf somewhere up there, corner, I can't point, where is it? Right there. Anyways, so I kind of already got an art book, so it's kind of neat to have some other different things there. All right, and then next up, we got a couple different posters of sorts. These are some kind of like worker-related ones, fired up for work. But play with fire and get burned. Careful when handling fire, which the flamethrower is a weapon in the game. Teamwork improves safety. And then we got secure all tool guards. And that's our plasma cutter. And, you know, just kind of keeping up the trend, I've ordered all special editions of Dead Space since the first game. I got the Dead Space 2 limited edition, which came with a small size plasma cutter. And then I got the Dead Space 3 collector's edition, which you can kind of see. This camera is backwards, so it's right up there. Yeah. Dead Space 3 Collector's Edition, which came with some pretty cool stuff, too. So, you know, gotta keep it going. Then next up here, we got a Ishimura patch there. Ishimura is the planet cracker that most of the game takes place on. And that's kind of cool. Next up, we have a pin. I think it's a unitology pin of the marker, which is the artifact that they find that kind of causes all these problems. And then next up, we got the Dead Space soundtrack, original soundtrack. I will say one thing about Dead Space is I never really paid too much attention to the soundtrack. It's very atmospheric, kind of, you know, more background, less in your face sort of thing. Although the music is great, but I can't really like hum ya any of the themes or tunes or anything, but it's still pretty cool to have a soundtrack. Then next up here we have a marker, and this is not sure what it's made of. It's pretty heavy. I don't think it's pewter, but it's pretty well detailed, and it's nice that they kind of changed it up because the Dead Space 3 Collector's Edition came with a marker about I don't know, 8 to 10 inches tall. It's in one of my display cabinets, but it's always cool to have more markers. And then we have another poster that was hidden, taped to the styrofoam inside the box. Another, you know, safety poster, I guess. Safety protects people. Quality protects jobs. All right, and then lastly, and kind of the focus and the main reason why I bought this collector's edition is the helmet that it comes with. You know, honestly, I wish these collector's editions would stop coming with helmets and do statues. I much prefer the statues, but hey, that's pretty cool. I got a whole set of helmets now for various games. I got a couple Fallout ones. I got Mass Effect. I got Doom Guy or Doom Slayer. And now we got Dead Space. Oh, yes. And I was checking and I was like, I didn't see, but I was sure this lit up. But Yeah, it lights up too. So let me go ahead and put this on. All right, so there we go. Isaac Clarke's helmet, Dead Space. It's the engineer suit. It's kind of hard to see through it. Like right here is where I need to see, but you know, the visors. So it kind of fits weird, I guess. If I look up, I can see through it. But yeah, and I didn't break it down just because it wasn't part of this. But I also did buy like engineer suit hoodie that's really cheaply made. It has pretty bad printing. It looks like they took an image from the game and like blew it up and put it on a shirt. But if I want to do like a lazy cosplay, I can wear that. I got this. I got my little mini plasma cutter that came with the Dead Space 2 limited edition. So that is pretty neat. And the helmet actually looks pretty good. I'm going to take it off. But yeah, it's got some pretty good detailing. I mean, just like the helmet in the game. I'm sure there's some cosplayers out there that are just going to have a heyday. I've seen some really awesome suits that people have made. They've made really good helmets too, but, you know, a little less work maybe. So yeah, so that is the Dead Space remake, or Dead Space 2013, Dead Space Collector's Edition. Of course, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you played Dead Space? Do you intend to play Dead Space? And what do you think about this Collector's Edition? It's a little different, it's a little much, but, you know, is what it is, I suppose. So yes, let me know your thoughts, and then as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you next time on the Game Grinder.